Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Our guest today has more than 20 years of sales and marketing experience, spanning across vineyard, cellar sales, and global IT companies. He also has extensive experience leading, coaching, and consulting for sales and marketing teams throughout the US and Asia. He's also the author of the Mongrel Method. And today he's going to show you how to stop selling and start closing. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together and help us welcome to the Win Sales Now podcast, our good friend, Steve Mamiel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Steve.
Well, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be with you both.
Always great to see you there. So ladies and gentlemen, as you join us here on Facebook Live, make sure that you start to like, comment, and make sure you also share this content with somebody who needs to start making more sales. So Steve, thanks for joining us. We understand that you've got more than 20 years of experience in both marketing and selling. And all of us have made some big mistakes in marketing and selling. What have been some of your big blunders over the past 20 years?
Oh, there's been plenty of blunders. I think sales is one of those things where you learn the hard way and you spend a fair bit of time reflecting on what actually happened. And it's great when you've got a team around you where you can actually debrief and talk about what happened and get other people's perspectives on it. So one of those mistakes that I found I was doing, particularly when you're seeing lots of clients, is you jump to a conclusion or you jump ahead of where the prospect was at. They would be trying to explain an issue they were trying to solve, an outcome they were trying to deliver. And you'd be there going, I've heard this before. I know where this is going, and you would jump ahead. And that often would blow up trust with the prospect, and and the thing would fall apart pretty quickly. And one of the analogies I use when I'm doing sales training is talk about, going and seeing a doctor where, they might check one or two things and suddenly they're prescribing antibiotics for you and pushing you out the door very quickly. And, that's a very uncomfortable scenario. And, I always say to people out selling, and, my mistake that I was making was I wasn't doing the diagnosis first. I was jumping straight to a prognosis, and that would often blow up sales because you forget, this might be the first time that a particular customer has dealt with this problem or trying to find this outcome, and they've just got to walk it through logically in their head. But the salesperson might have heard this story a million times and they think they know the answer and they want to appear smart, which is often me. And you try and shorten that time because you know how this is going to play out, but you've got to bite your tongue and you've got to let the customer tell their story.
I really love that because when Steve mentioned about that, I just have a picture of like we always talk about the relationship you have with the clients like marriage. Like you will start dating or introduce yourself instead of do you want to marry me? That exactly the same. Exactly.
Yeah, there's got to be these natural transition stages.
Yeah.
And it unravels pretty quickly if you want to jump ahead.
For people who are trying to unpack this, a doctor does three things. They do an examination, they do a diagnosis, and then they offer a prescription. And in medicine, all doctors agree to the Hippocratic Oath, which is never knowingly do harm. Or I think in Latin they say primum non nocere, which means never knowingly do harm. And in medicine, prescription before diagnosis is actually malpractice. And so if you look at it as a medical model, if we offer a product or service before we understand what their problem is, then it's doing harm to the customer.
Yeah.
And I've been there, I've done it. I've done it many times. It's that assumption, isn't it?
Yeah.
Making an ass out of yourself, first of all. And then the client smiles and says, if I ever need your product and service, you'll be the first one I call. And they're the last words you ever hear from them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, in the world today, marketing and selling is changing rapidly. And it's like the perfect storm has hit. Everything that we were doing a couple of months ago and a couple of years ago no longer works. In Australia, the perfect storm arrived. Last year, we had droughts followed by fires, followed by floods, and now COVID-19.
Yeah.
And the world's rapidly changing. So in your opinion, what have been some of the biggest changes in marketing and selling, say over the past 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so I think that certainly sales and marketing have come together. A lot of organisations would have a separate sales area and a separate marketing team, and the marketing team were often kept away from the customers, wouldn't have a direct relationship with a customer. And I think now you're seeing a lot of organisations bring those two areas together, and the customer conversation is often starting with marketing. And marketing have built this relationship and understand the client long before a salesperson gets near it or near the prospect. So I think that's a big change, because what used to happen is the salesperson held all the knowledge. You know, they understood their product and the problems it solved. Today, you know, most prospects, most customers are 70% of the way through that decision journey, that purchasing journey, however you want to describe it, before they even get close to a salesperson. So the salesperson's role ends up being enabling a decision, clarifying a few things, and guiding the prospect through that last stage, because the salesperson's runs into all of these biases and preconceived ideas that the prospects already formed in their own mind from sources that they've decided are credible. And marketing, hopefully has been part of that, and your marketing teams help form that opinion early in the piece. So, and then what's happened in the last really month, as we've all been locked down, that role of marketing has become even more important, because again, the prospect's not picking the phone up to a salesperson. The prospect's doing their own investigation, and unless you've got that good content out there, you've got authority in the marketplace, that prospect's not coming to you. And that's really the role of the marketing person, because at sales, that's happening on a one-on-one level. You can't be doing that now. The cost of sales of doing it on that one-on-one basis, trying to make cold calls, is really hard and really expensive. So I think your marketing play a really important role up front, one, to generate the prospect, and two, post-sales, to keep that engagement and keep that relationship going, doing a bit of market research and tuning their own conversation they're having with the next round of prospects. So marketing, and not just this, we've created a marketing qualified prospect that might be given a number and a ranking in this bucket, but I think they're now involved, or ought to be involved, all the way through the journey.
We're finding with a lot of businesses in Australia now, they're having to move on to that online marketing. And they're also understanding that when their emails are going out in their marketing campaigns, the first thing the buyer does is click on social media. Well, let's see how good he really is.
Yep.
And they go stalk you on your social media platform. What are you posting on your feed? What are you sharing? What are you liking? They go to your business pages, and they're looking for social proof. They also go to your Instagram. Who are they behind the scenes? What are they doing as a father, as a friend? What are they doing in the community? Then they go over to your LinkedIn profile. How many followers do he has? Who's he connected with? What are the testimonials? And then if it all adds up, and in our opinion, if you look low risk, then they'll click the button. And it's going back to what Nini said before, was when I met her, I didn't propose to her straight away, because I knew if I proposed to her and said, would you marry me? She'd think I'm a psychopath. So I just invited her. We're at work. I said, why don't you come and have an orange juice? Well, she said, no, but that's the start of the marketing process, isn't it? They say no, but no just means no, not now. And I think, well, if I can get through all the no's, eventually I'll get a yes. And here we are today. The marketing worked.
That's right.
But after you market, you've got to keep marketing.
That's right.
I think we call it peacocking.
Yeah, because I think one of the Steve mentioned about, the marketing nowadays, not just, it's more like you also increase your credibility, which is so important. Like Daniel saying, you know, like people wants to know who you really are to lower the risk. And then this is what we have been telling our clients as well. You cannot be the ghost behind the scene. People doesn't know you.
There was a person pitching to me recently.
Yeah.
And they start off with their marketing. And I thought, well, I'll just go check them out. And I went to their Facebook page and it's all anti-terrorism stuff. Now, I'm not saying vote for terrorism, but I'm saying the things that you got to share on your Facebook wall, it got to be socially acceptable. There's people slaughtering dogs and slaughtering each other and cutting people's heads off. And I thought to myself, is this the person that I'm going to engage and marry and being in a relationship with? And it was an automatic turn off just by looking at their Facebook feed. They could have been the best in the world, but because of that natural human response, you know, does your nervous system, autonomic nervous system, go into the sympathetic functioning, or does it go into the parasympathetic functioning? Well, I saw it and I just wanted to run away. I thought maybe if I don't pay my bill, he's going to try to cut my head off or something, or he's going to do it to my clients.
Yeah, it's very crazy.
So always looking at. So
the last question?
Yeah. Let's ask him one more. Let's ask him one more question.
So Steve, what practical ideas that you can share with our followers and friends to start closing more sales?
Yeah, so I think, you know, there's a bias here, but there's a lot more great ideas in my book, The Mongrel Method, Sales and Marketing for the New Breed of Buyer. So that's a good reference point. Number 2 would be keep in mind it's diagnosis before prognosis. Avoid that temptation to jump ahead, as we keep talking about in this conversation, jumping ahead because you think you know where this conversation is going. You've heard it a million times. Let the customer have their piece, and you know, let them lead the conversation. And on that theme, I think you know, what a lot of salespeople forget is when they can advance that conversation, what happens is the prospect starts to almost give back to you what you're saying, or they're envisaging what the future looks like, or what your solution might, how that solution might impact them. So, you know, listen for those clues where the prospect is talking about a future that involves your product or solution.
I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us for the first time, make sure you post a question below, like this feed, and make sure you share it with a friend who needs to increase their sales. Because as we say in business, nothing happens until you make a sale. And that's the most important thing in the business. If you can't sell, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you can't make a sale, you never get to do what you love the most. And it's really important. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing some ideas from the Mongrel Method book. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mongrel Method is now available on Amazon. And what we'll do is we'll put the link to the book in the feed below, and make sure you go over there and get it today. Because just one new idea from a good book like this is enough to double or even triple your sales results. So Steve, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon.
It's been a pleasure. Great chatting. Thanks. Bye.
Ciao for now.